Okay, welcome to episode 70 of the AMT podcast. Hope you're all well. Joined by Pez again on the podcast today. I know it's been a minute, but we're going to discuss how our trading has gone so far. We're coming off a 10-day break, almost 2-week break in the IPL, as discussed last time in the last episode. But more importantly, we want to discuss going full-time on trading. And I think this is an episode that a lot of people are interested in. There's a lot of people who are considering going full-time or don't know what it takes and what considerations have to be made. And there is no cut and dry answer. Everyone approaches this game with a different hand from a different starting point, but there is some commonalities and we all have similar considerations to make. So hopefully we can shed some light on that. So first off, welcome back, Pez. How you been?
Yes, I've been well. I've been looking after myself. I've been keeping a bit of a lower profile than I had during the summer of cricket, but I have been well. Have you been looking after yourself?
I have been, yeah. I mean, it's been full on, the IPL. So even though the break was not expected, it was rather welcomed because, like I said, I've been trading pretty much every day. I've only missed a handful of games, and to do that for 2 months straight is just so hectic. And I know we were on a really good roll, so you kind of don't realize how tired you are until you take time off. You know, you're kind of twiddling your thumbs. You're finding things to do. You can't be bothered to do menial house chores, which you ordinarily would have sacked off. So it's just been a period, sort of limbo period, where you're just trying to tick over. And I mean, now that we're back, it couldn't have gone better than what we expected. I mean, we were expecting some rust and some surprises yesterday. We had a double header yesterday. I know Saturday's game was rained off, and we traded really well yesterday. So really happy to hit the ground running, and hopefully we can see out this tournament strong. We've only got another couple weeks left or so before the Test cricket starts. So I'm in a good place right now with my trading, and I know you've been as well. We've been pretty much on board with most of the games.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said just before about having a break, I mean, I from a cricket point of view, or from a from a like a mental break point of view for me, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise. And I mean, I know I shouldn't really say that due to what the break's for, and many civilians losing their lives for God knows whatever reasons, but in terms of just a purely cricketing and a purely trading background, I think that break was actually beneficial for me because the IPL is one hell of a long tournament. I think it's twice as long as the Big Bash, and even during the Big Bash, I think just after the Christmas period, I'd end up taking a couple of days off and just said I need a break, and I started feeling addicted to the screen and real trigger happy just before that break. So I shouldn't say blessing in disguise. It's probably the wrong wording for it. But from just a purely, non-political, just a purely trading point of view, I think that break has been beneficial for me at least.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it wasn't just the IPL that's on. You got so many things crossing over. There's a few international series going on. There's some ODI cricket. There's the PSL. So you're just sort of bombarded with different markets and different temptations. So it's really hard to just stay on the ball and not get distracted when there's opportunity elsewhere as well. But I think we've done a really good period of just we've done a really good job of just locking in and zoning in. And yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a relief when it's over. But then it's because of this delay. I'm not sure what the final date is, but it sort of rolls straight over into the Test cricket. So it's going to be a really long summer. So you're going to have to be really tactical about when we take breaks going forward. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But moving on from that, I know that you're at a bit of a junction with regards to your trading. And I know you're doing well at what you're doing. But there is a job offer hanging in the balance. And obviously we don't have to go into detail. But I know you're deciding on whether or not you should go full-time or whether you should take this job and come back to trading in the future. So I think this will be a good discussion to have with regards to what considerations that have to be made, what it is you're thinking about, what it is that is what it's gonna take for you to go full time. So if you want to shed some light on that, on what it is when the job starts and how much you probably need to make from trading to make it your worthwhile, or what is it? What are the big considerations that you have to make in order for you to give this a go full time?
Yeah, I mean, you bang on the money. I am at a bit of a junction in my life. For the last 6 months, just to lay some groundwork, the last 6 months trading has pretty much been the primary source, and it's been lovely. I've learnt. Oh, it's been lovely. It's also been horrible at times, but I've learned a lot of lessons in that time. I feel like I've figured out how to manage money in my personal life a hell of a lot better when you have something as volatile as trading, rather than having something stable like a 9 to 5 with the same income hitting your bank account, whether you've performed well or haven't performed well at work each week. So there's been some growing pains there, but to touch base on what's happened is, as I said, I've been trading since about December when I had that massive month of trading with the Big Bash. I've been pretty much full time with just trading, and that suited me really well as well, because as I know, we're on opposite sides of the world. I'm in the southern hemisphere, so the Big Bash summer and the New Zealand Super Smash summer is my summer. So that was pretty good time for me to go full time, to be honest. It was right in my zone. The time slots lined up perfectly, but now I'm at a crossroads because out of the blue, I've received a job offer. I think I've mentioned it before, but I am a civil engineer by trade, and it's about my 10th year as a qualified civil engineer. So,
Mm-hmm.
long story short, yep, you go.
No, I was just gonna say. So I know you've been trading pretty much full time right now. Have you not been working, or you've been working part time? What's the arrangement been so far?
No, well, since December, I've been trading when there's games of cricket on, and the rest of the time just sitting at home twiddling my thumbs.
Oh,
um,
so
that,
you haven't been working like the civil engineering job?
no, I have not been. Since December, I've not worked in a civil engineering job, so it's been just coming up to 6 months where trading has been my not just primary but my only source of income for the last 6 months now.
For the last 6 months, was this sort of like a like a test? Were you just testing the waters to see if you could make it full time, or was this the plan? Were you all in, trying to trade full time going forward, and then this job offer came along? So, what was the plan before you stopped working?
So I think you sort of bang on the money there, but it is a little bit more complicated. So last year on my Twitter, I said that I was gonna try and make $30,000, and I recorded myself every day, and eventually I got there. And at that stage, I thought to myself, thinking, it's not enough to make a full time living, but let's just dip your toe in the water and see if you enjoy just the lifestyle at least, and just see if it is possible to live just full time trading, or is it going to send you mad? So that was the original plan, was just to sort of put a toe in the water, not go all in. Um, it wasn't to go all in, full steam ahead. It was just to dip a toe in the water and see if I enjoyed it. Um, then came December, and in December, nothing went wrong. Everything went perfectly, and I had a $12,000 month trading the Big Bash and just the Aussie Summer of Cricket. Maybe a few people from the Discord group would remember that, because I don't know. That was probably as hot a run as I've been on. And when that happened, it's safe to say I was earning more than probably what I would make at the time working. And so then the conversation started to lean towards, let's go from dipping a toe in the water to let's go full steam ahead. How good is this? I can wake up, I can go to the beach in the morning for a swim. I'm full control of my day, and then really every night I've just got to lock in for 3-4 hours and lock in properly, and I can make well more than I make in a job per se. So that's sort of what happened around that period, around December. And with all that momentum in December, and then it sort of carried on into January. January was nowhere near as good as December, but it was still pretty good. I thought, bugger it, let's go all in and just see what it's like. So to answer your original question, the original goal was just to dip a toe in the water, just see if you like it, if it's possible, if I like it, and then having that ripping month in December, I thought, well, let's rip the Band-Aid off and have a proper crack. So since that month, or since during that month when I stopped, I've not worked since, and I've been full-time trading per se.
Okay, so since you've dipped your toe in the water, so to speak, you had a big December, and you've been profitable, as far as I know anyway, most months, if not all the months. What's your thoughts now? Now that you're at this crossroads, we'll address the elephant in the room. What you're making, or what you project to make, is not going to match what you're offered at a job. Is that fair to say?
That's more than fair to say. And to be honest, I've thought about it in a fair bit of detail, because, as I mentioned, that December month, it's so easy. I think we've discussed this before as well on a previous episode. But when everything goes right in a month, it's so easy to start sitting back and projecting and just being like, oh shit, if that was good, I'll just do that again. I'll just copy paste that in January. I'll copy paste that in March. And then maybe in April when the IPL kicks off, I'll double it, because nothing will go wrong ever. And so I did fall into that trap of projecting probably too much at that stage. But yes, all things go back to equal or to neutral. And in this case, the trading did level out somewhat. And I have been profitable in December, January, February. There was not much on, but still made some profit. Had a quiet March, and then I've had a very good April, and May is ticking over pretty nicely as well. So yes, I have been profitable, but as you mentioned, yes, I'm not going to make anywhere near what I would make as an engineer by trading full time. Not at this current stage. And to be honest, thinking about it a fair bit more, this is my 3rd year of trading, and it's my 10th year of being an engineer plus 4 years of uni, right? Essentially, I've been doing it or studying at least for 14 years, whereas this is my 3rd year of trading. It's probably almost arrogant of me to think that I could have matched my salary from engineering for a decade in my 3rd year of trading, and that was a good reality check for me to have. Not to say that it's not possible one day, but for 2025 right now, I don't think it's possible unless I take some really sizable risks that I'll be uncomfortable taking.
Yeah, no, you've made some really good points there, especially the one about projecting after a good month, because I've been down that road. I'm sure everyone's been down that road, anyone that trades full time, where you have one crazy month where everything goes right, and then you sort of expect that the next month, the month after that, and when you don't, you end up chasing it. You end up over trading just to get there, and then you make mistakes, and before you know it, you're earning below your average. So it's a funny sort of hamster wheel to be on. If you have one outstanding month, it's the whole goal of trading is just to raise your average, so that eventually, if you keep compounding your bankroll, your average is going to match what you made during that big month at one point in time. But I know you're profitable, and I know that obviously the job offer, you can command a lot more money doing what you're doing by trade. Is there a point? Is there a number you have in mind when it comes to trading that will sort of be enough? The lifestyle freedom and just being your own boss. Is there a compromise? Is there an amount of money that would be enough where you couldn't justify taking a job no matter how much money it is? Would you accept that if you were to go full-time trading, it means making less money? It means taking a step back, at least in the short run. Would that be a pill that you'd be willing to swallow, at least for the next, I don't know, few years, before going full time, or or do you enjoy what you do? Do you enjoy your trade? Because I asked this because when I was at uni, or when I was finishing uni, I knew I didn't want to work for anyone. So that was almost a given. I knew I didn't want to go into banking because I had a job offer in private equity, and for me, it was a no-brainer to turn down. The only issue was I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I stumbled upon the sports, when I stumbled upon Betfair Exchange, I was all in. So there was no question, there was no consideration, and of course, my situation was different. I wasn't in a position to command the money that you might be now, 10 years into your career. I was just off a graduate scheme, and I was getting offered, I think, £36,000, around about 35 to £38,000. I can't remember exactly. I think I've got the email somewhere. And that kind of money when you're young is quite a lot. And a few years down the road, I would have probably been in a position where I could have commanded six figures, especially in private equity. So me deciding to go full-time trading was definitely a bad decision monetarily, because like I said, I would have made more money in a 9 to 5, more connections. I would have improved my career prospects. I could have saved a bankroll, and I could have approached trading just, being financially free without any pressure. But the other way of looking at it is, had I not gone through what I did, had I not gone all in on trading from the start, I wouldn't have had to confront those bad habits that I had coming out of uni, which probably would have plagued me for the rest of my life. So my laziness, my lack of organization, trading sort of forces this a level of accountability, because if you have a bad day at work, you still get paid. So if you have a 9 to 5, you're still going to get money no matter what happens that day. If you have a bad day trading, you lose money. There's no benefits package. There's no sick leave. There's no holidays. You just make what you earn. But the upside is your time isn't measured in hours. Your pay is non-linear. So if you're good at what you do, you can scale, and you're good at what you do, you're a good trader, you can scale very quickly if you just keep making the right decisions and you keep living within your means. Your bank can compound as quickly as you like. And I'm not going to state all the upsides of being a trader, but essentially what I'm saying is I was forced to weed out all the destructive tendencies and habits that I had before. I could have winged it with a 9 to 5 job, providing I was good at what I do. But I'm of the firm belief that habits and tendencies always catch up and bite you one way or another. If I was making a lot of money in the city, I'd have probably squandered it. There's no reason to suggest why I would have saved it or I would have been rational, because at uni, I didn't know anything about saving money. I'd get my student loan and I'd go out and spend it. So trading sort of forced me to be organized and balance the books and budget and live within my means so that I could scale up. And when things took off, my lifestyle stayed the same. And, I'm aware of a few certain individuals who did hit the ground running, and there's a few reasons for that. Like some people, for example, I know there's a few traders, a few successful traders who are from a poker background, and they might have lost their edge before they came into trading, but they know how to make money and how to maintain and grow a bankroll. Or there are some people from a financial background. But for me, for whatever reason, whether it's my personality or whatever, I just had no idea how to manage money. So me going all in on trading meant that I had to learn things about myself, and I had to force myself to change, where I wouldn't have had that pressure if I was earning a steady income. But you, on the other hand, you're in that unique situation where you do have good financial habits because you are long-term profitable. You do know how to have month-on-month green months and grow your bankroll. But at the same time, you're in a position where you can command substantially more money at your job. So I don't know. I guess you could work for a year or work for 2 years and save a bankroll, which you never could have done by trading. Like I said, you would have had to match what you made in December every month for 12 months straight, and that's just not realistic. Or you can go into a 9 to 5 for a year or two, earn a lot of money, live within your means, and just dump it in Betfair, and then just trade. Do exactly the same thing you're doing now at scale. So at least you have options. So I kind of, it's I envy you, basically.
And it's funny, you envy me, and I'm envying you right now because you've got it figured out and you've scaled it to a size where you sort of can live a nice lifestyle off your trading. But to answer your original question about, you know, would I take a couple of steps back financially to pursue this trading thing long term? Uh, it's funny you ask that because maybe 5-6 years ago I absolutely would have. I would have 100% if I was, early 20s, didn't have too much responsibility on my shoulders. Yeah, why not? I would have absolutely taken some bigger risks and gone full time in the trading and gone traveling and done a lot more and just traded via a laptop from South America or Southeast Asia or anywhere. But I think the reality is I turned 30 earlier this year, and I feel personally, I might be wrong, I might be right, but I feel like 30s is time to sort of have a bit of stability and lay some really good foundations down for later in life. And for me right now, I'm in the decade where I've got a partner, I've settled down. It's realistically a family should, fingers crossed, happen in the next, within this decade. And I think for me right now, it'd be hard to go back on or take those couple of steps back. And that's why I said before that I envy you, because you did take that risk, and you did go all in on the trading when you were your early 20s. And I know what you said, it's hard to say, turn down £36,000 when you're in your early 20s, but it's even harder to turn double that money down when you've got a mortgage and a partner and real life responsibilities as well, which is where my head is currently at. And I don't really know what the final answer is, to be honest, in all of this. But yeah, just to answer your earlier question, I think 5 years ago, 6 years ago, absolutely, I would have gone all in on the trading. But for right now, I need stability, and I think you hit the nail on the head with what you said before, which is that it's not going to mean that if I do take this, that I'll go back to engineering and not worry about trading. I think it's a matter of both, like I did all last year and the year before and the year before that, which is I might not be able to trade the same volume of events, but I can still train, I can still trade, and I can still keep refining the bets and getting better and improving and learning lessons. And the consequences aren't as dire when you've got guaranteed money coming in. But when I'm already working a 60-hour week, probably, I don't want those other hours of trading to be pissing money down the drain, so to speak. Because I'm going to be tired, and I already know that, but I can see the long-term benefits of trading, and I can see that one day I can scale up to your level, and it's all worth it then, because then I have complete autonomy of my time. I don't have to be on a construction site at 6 a.m. and finish work at 5 a.m. and drive an hour home and be away from home for 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, half the time on maybe a Saturday even. I'll get that autonomy back, or I'll get that freedom back in my life like I've experienced the last 6 months. So I think the benefits of trading are massive, and I think the biggest benefit of trading is freedom, and that's something that I think that everyone is striving for. If you go on any social media, everyone's talking about financial freedom, and there's 4,000 different ways to get it. For me, I can see trading being my way out, the same way that you've made, but just maybe a couple years behind the pace, and might have to do it a little bit slower because I remember you took your chance when you were a single young lad.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't have a family to feed. I know situations change now, but I am coming into this with a partner and a mortgage, so I can't be as erratic. But definitely, if I do take this job offer, it's the trading dream is not going to die, and if anything, I feel like it's one step back to take a couple of steps forward, because what this job offer does do is it offers me um, significantly more take-home money than I can make with trading for right now, at least, which can contribute. With the good savings from that, it will contribute to building my bankroll and actually take me closer to that step of of earning a full-time living from trading. So that's where my head's at. And then you had a second question in there as well, which is, do I enjoy my trade of engineering? And I think distance makes the heart grow a little bit fond, because when I ended my last job at the end of last year, I was pretty over it. I was over the big weeks, I was over the big hours, I was over looking at drawings and reading contracts and crunching numbers and coming home tired, and I was over it and having no control or no freedom. I was expected to be on a job site at 6 a.m. and I was expected to be in the office till 5 p.m. and I had no freedom, no control over my life. But now, not having done it for the last 6 months, I don't know, maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome, because there's a part of me that's missing it. There's a part of me that's misses being on site at the crack of dawn before the sun comes up and having 100 guys on site all cracking jokes on a Monday morning, or telling me what the young apprentice got up to on his weekend and how he can't handle his drink properly, and all the shenanigans of that. I miss the camaraderie of being in a big team. And I know there's an awesome team in the Discord channel, and we can bounce around messages, and that has made life a lot easier, to be completely honest. But I still miss just the shenanigans you see on a construction site. You get some pretty funny boys and girls on a construction site, and I do miss a bit of that, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because trading is a lonely profession, and I felt like that community aspect was always missing, especially on Twitter, where it's quite fractured. So that was partially the motivation for me starting the Discord channel for premium members that we have, and obviously you're a big contributor there, and you're going to be missed if you take this job. But yeah, that community aspect, it really helps. Not just you, everyone wins. It's a positive sum game, because you can share your thoughts. You can crack jokes, and I know we're sharing trades as well, but it's just that community aspect where you think you're going through things alone, but you get to speak with others. So hopefully I've filled that void to some extent. But what I did want to ask you was, if you do take this job and in your mind you're going to go for a year or a few years or whatever you plan on doing, and you save enough to go back into trading, do you not feel that you're sort of going to be almost tied down, because it's going to be hard to work? Making a stable income, a stable good income, is a big thing to walk away from, especially if you're going to essentially gamble for a living. And like I said, that thing about taking 2-3 steps back and you're looking for stability, do you not feel that it's going to be even harder to make that jump as you get later into your 30s, and if you get married, and if you get a mortgage, and if you have kids? It's only going to get harder the longer you sink your feet into this corporate 9 to 5. And like I said, I'm only asking as an outsider, because I've never had to deal with that. I've never had to make that consideration. For me, trading is ABC 1, 2, 3. Everyone looks at this and thinks it's the riskiest thing in the world, but for me, it's absolutely safe, because obviously I have an edge. I've maintained it. I've grown it in some markets, and I do a lot of crypto as well. And people are frightened when I tell them this is what I do for a living. I think of real estate, or I think of a 9 to 5 as extremely risky. Getting a mortgage and paying off a 25-year mortgage on a property. I don't know all that much about properties, but when it comes to sports and when it comes to crypto and just taking risk, essentially, just living on the edge, so to speak, I'm so dialed in now with my risk management. It's something that I don't know any better. Do you not feel that walking away from a corporate job is going to be that much harder the longer you are in a relationship, and if you get married, and if you have a mortgage, and if you plan on having a family? Do you not think that that decision is only going to get harder for you later down the line?
That's a fantastic point, and I think it will be difficult. It absolutely will be. But I mean, the fact of reality here is an engineering salary doesn't necessarily um, compound compound exponentially like you can do with trading. It's very unreasonable for me to go to my boss, whoever that may be, and say I want a 20% pay rise year in, year out from this point on. That's it's not going to happen. I might get it 1 year, and then I think if I asked him again the second year, he would laugh, and if I ask him again the third year, he'll probably show me the door. In trading, I think it's very reasonable to increase it at those, to compound at those things. I think that's pretty risk averse, and yes, it will be difficult. Let's say I do have a family, it will be difficult. However, I don't think I would, you know, I think my risk mitigation is not. I'm not going to quit an engineering job with $0 to my name and go, I'm going to make it on the punt. I'm obviously going to set myself up, give myself some wiggle room, some room for error, some margin for error, and I'd like to, have 6 months or 12 months under my belt where I'm earning already, whilst working full time, something that is enough to cover all my expenses and my bills. And once I've done that, whilst also earning a salary, that gives me a good enough cushion to go, have a crack at it. And I think, to be honest as well, I feel like the older and older I get, every year I've done this, I don't know if it's maturity or I don't know if it's knowledge of market or knowledge of myself, but I've controlled my risks so much better year in, year out from this trading game. And I think part of it is actually trading, but I think the bigger part of it, for me at least, is maturity. It's like when I was in my 20s, I could justify anything. I could lose $500 and be like, well, you didn't go out on Friday night, so you're net even. When now that I have a mortgage and have a missus and whatnot, like I still can lose $500, but I don't give myself bullshit excuses to justify it. I actually look at what went wrong. Was it a freak result? Was I on a batting team and I don't know, Trent Bolt or someone took a hat trick? Or was I just on the wrong side of it? Did I have plenty of indicators or signs that I should be getting out of this trade and just held on for too long? These are questions I have to ask myself now with real life responsibilities. Whereas in my 20s, I couldn't care less. It'd be, I lost $500, but I went out on Friday night. I didn't go out on Saturday as well, so it's kind of okay. It's really $100 loss. There was just no accountability for it. Whereas now, I think there's more accountability, and I think what I'm trying to get at is, as the years go on or as time goes on, I think my trading not only improves, but my maturity does as well. And I think the maturity goes up at the same pace as the responsibilities, and I think that, to answer your question, it will be very difficult to leave a stable income, but I will be leaving that stable income whilst I've set myself up really well and got myself some good foundations to do it, and got a couple months of savings and a couple of months in a row where I've matched my salary or made enough to cover bills and have some savings. So it might not, the way I look at it is if I take this job, it's one step back in trading, but it's actually a couple steps forward in regards to compounding a bankroll and putting some money away to give myself that solid foundation for later on to have a genuine crack again.
That's yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's a really grown way of looking at it, and I think that, like I said, you're in a better position than most because you've spent a good few years trading. You've proven that you can do it, and I do feel sorry for a lot of people who are in a different position to you, where they're fed up with their job and they hate their job, so they want to turn to trading, and they're in a position where they've got no choice but to make it work. because they don't have savings, or they haven't set themselves up, and then they want to turn to this to make an income because they're sold on the lifestyle and working from home and not paying tax. But it requires such a level of accountability and maturity and stableness mentally that you have to cultivate. And most people just don't have it. Very few people hit the ground running. Like I said to you earlier, some people have come from a poker background where they have that bankroll management and risk management, and they can grow in sports trading, or they just have a knack for taking risk and they just hit the ground running. But most people have to figure things out as you go along. And as I've said to you earlier, as you said earlier, when you were more reckless with your money in your 20s and you'd lose $500 on this or that, I was exactly the same. I was even worse, actually, in fact, because there would be times where I'd decimate 40, 50%, if not 90% of my bankroll. And I did that so many times. But I could afford to do so because my unfair advantage was that I had time on my side. I was young. I had zero bills. I was living with family. I wasn't in a serious relationship. So I could afford to take those risks. And if you ask me, would I do it again? I'd say I was absolutely not suited to this line of work. I would have taken that 9 to 5 and taken that stable income. So I didn't know where I was going to end up. And it got to a point where I was in a serious relationship, and I had to consider the future and getting married and having a kid, and just life sort of shakes you and forces you to grow up. And that's what it took for me to go through the pains of becoming disciplined. And there's people in the group who reach out to me in our Discord group, and it's happened a few times, and they said to me, you are laser-like with your entries and your exits, and you're so disciplined, because I've got a pretty high hit rate on my trades. I know I take smaller positions than most, but I'm very disciplined with my entries and exits, and they think I've always had that discipline. The truth is, a lot of the guys in the group already have a job, so for them this is more recreational, whereas I'm relying on this for money. So I can't afford to have an off day. I can't afford to have a bad day. And if I do, because those are inevitable in trading, I have to absolutely know what my max drawdown is. So I absolutely have to be disciplined. This is not something I was born with. This is not something that I was given. I had zero talent. I had to learn everything. So I think the really good thing that you've done is, while you've been working as a civil engineer, you've dedicated ample time to trading, and you've set out targets for yourself. You hit $30,000, and you should plug your socials on here, or I'll tag it in the description below. But people should see, because I remember when you was uploading every day, you trading cricket and showing your journey towards that $30,000 mark. So I think that, so I think that my advice for anyone that wants to go full time is that, look, not everyone is going to be in your situation, Pez, where they've got they work in a very skilled niche. They've got a good job. They've had a good job offer. They can roll that money into trading if they want to do so in the future. Most people are working menial jobs where they're fed up and they want to move into trading. And if you want to do that, my advice is spend all the time you have outside of your job trading markets, just trying to get that discipline, get into the discipline of growing a bankroll and building your skills, because you want to hit the ground running as soon as possible. You can't afford to go in full time and lose for 5 or 6 months or a year and then try and turn things around, because for most people that's too late. So you need to figure out what your unfair advantage is. Do you have the temperament for it? For me, I had zero skills. All I had was time. So I could afford to mess up. And if you can't afford to mess up, you have to put time aside to sharpen your tools like you've done. So you've got options. And I think that whether or not you go full time and you take those 2-3 years stepping back where you're making less money, you're going to get to where you need to be anyway, because you've got that skill. So I wouldn't blame you if you took that job and you got that head start and you saved up that 5 or 6 figure bankroll, whatever it is, and then went into trading. You've got options. So I think you're in a unique position. Selfishly, I'd say keep trading because I need you in my group. But honestly, I'm really happy for you. And I think that there's no right or wrong answer here. It all depends on what your goal is and how quickly you want to get there. And obviously the goal is to take the quickest route And if that means saving up for a year with a stable income and then going into trading, I wouldn't blame you, honestly.
Absolutely. And I think, I am fortunate, and I am pretty grateful for the lifestyle that I live, and I do acknowledge that I have been fortunate in life. You know, fortunate to be able to get into an engineering degree and complete it and have these options. I realize I am fortunate. And the other thing that I think I'm very fortunate about that sometimes goes unrecognized is I've got a supportive partner,
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah, that's a game
I
changer.
I can't imagine most misses just letting their spouse or their husbands or whatever just go off and say, you know what, I'm going to be a full-time gambler, and most of them just going, yeah, sure. Like it's pretty hard. Whereas I was so fortunate and so lucky because mine understood the risk, and she just said to me, she just said, well, put this money aside for your trading. Um, Go give it a red hot crack, and if you lose, $20,000 or so, yes, it's an expensive lesson. Yes, it's gonna suck. Yes, it's gonna hurt. But the reality is you just walk back into an engineering job, and it might mean you have to save for a year to get it back. But it's not the worst thing in your world, because for me, the bigger risk is not financial. The bigger risk for me, at least with this life or with my life here, is never knowing if I could have done it or not, or never taking the chance to do it. And again, I was very fortunate. I am very fortunate with the partner I have, as supportive as she is. And with this job offer as well, I know I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be on Discord. I'll still be contributing. Maybe just not as much. I might not be able to trade. I'll be able to trade most of the English Test series, but I won't be up at 1 a.m. New Zealand time, or trying to trade T20s or the Vitality Blast. It's not for me. And the other thing I wanted to touch base on that you sort of mentioned is that other people might be stuck at their job or whatever it is, right? The way to break free is not to rush into it, because you guarantee if you try and rush into it and you try and make fast money or quick money, like, it's gonna come all crashing down. Like, I've learnt that lesson before so many times. And I think it's Alex Hormozy, one of my favourites online. He always says that he's fantastic, and I think even though his things are mostly business related, I think there's still a lot of things that translate to trading. And he says that anything that's worth it in life, like, takes time. And he's like, pretty much anything you think you're gonna do to a good level or a great level, like, however long you think it's gonna take you, multiply it by 3. And that for me is so accurate, because I know you said that I might have hit the ground running with trading. Like, yes, I think I have a decent understanding of cricket from the get-go, and I was fortunate with that. But holy, I had no financial control at all when I started trading. And I'd have one ripping month where I thought that, oh, yep, sweet, I've made this. Give me 6 months, I'll quit my job. I'll just trade full time. I've had that scenario. I think I've said to myself maybe 5 or 6 times at the end of this 6 month block that I could be full time. And for those thinking that I've just boom taken the risk and done this trading thing straight away, no way. I think it's been 3 or 4 years. The first year losing money, the second year probably spending 20 or 30 hours a week on top of a job, only to walk away break even or at a tiny win or a tiny loss. And even last year, when I finally got a hold of it, I finally made things click and was able to make money and keep money, because that's the second thing as well. Making money is one thing, being able to keep it is another. Like, it might look all easy, but a lot of those videos I was uploading to Twitter was me waking up at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, punching in the trading for 3-4 hours, and then going to my day job for 10 hours, and then coming home, rinse and repeat every single day. So I think if people want to hear that trading is easy, it's definitely not. but is it rewarding, and can you change your entire life by doing it, and sticking at it, like sticking at it and looking for those continual little 1% improvements? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the way that everyone's got to look at it, which is, if you're a losing trader at the last 3 months, you're not going to become a profitable trader in one go. Like, you're going to have to one by one weed out the bad habits. For me, it was betting on NFL and basketball, and I thought I was gifted and had an edge in everything. I had to weed all those things back one by one by one, and then I really learnt that, Paz, you're only actually good at cricket, and even when it's cricket, you're only actually good at the time, just T20s. So if cricket's on at 2 a.m., you better be up at 2 a.m., even if you've got to work a full day ahead of that. So it has been a difficult journey, and you know, I'm still willing to push through. I'm still willing to push through and keep hacking away at it till I can make it, as big as a full-time job offer.
Yeah, no, you made some really good points. Some really good points on relationships, and when it comes to building correctly and taking your time. As Hormozy said, times that by 3. So I do want to touch on both things, but since you brought up talking about building and doing it correctly, again, without blowing my own trumpet, people have said to me about my risk management, about when I advise trades, how it's very laser-like, and it's the same thing I do over and over again. And I basically, long story short, I divide my bank into 100 units, and then I split that unit across a few positions. So essentially, I never lose more than a unit or a fraction of a unit if things go against me. And on paper, that doesn't sound like a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot of risk, but obviously I'm operating at scale now. And most people, it doesn't sound exciting to win half a unit or to win 0.4 or 0.3 of a unit per game. But the thing is, right, to build slowly is to build correctly. And the idea of winning is to win consistently. And if you can only win consistently if you are sober mentally, and you can only stay sober if your wins and your losses are, how do I explain it? They don't hit that dopamine threshold, because if you start going on roller coaster runs where you're making 2 or 3 or 4 units profit and then you're giving it back in equal measure, it sort of distorts how you see taking risk, because people think there's so many people who think they can just go into trading and they can turn 10K into 100K. And in order to do that, to 10x your bankroll in a short space of time across a summer or what have you, you're going to have to take on so much risk, and you might do it. But what's going to happen is it's going to distort your perception of how you should be staking so badly that eventually you're going to give it all back, and that you're arguably worse off than you started, because now you've got scar tissue. Now you're scared to take risk, and now you have all these excuses and all these mental blocks which are only going to hold you back. And I've been through that and I've worked through it. Like I said earlier, my unfair advantage was time, so I could do that, but most people don't have that time. So to build slowly is to build correctly, and however long you think it's going to take, I agree with you on that. It's going to take at least 3 times longer, because you need to lay each brick perfectly. And if that means understaking or whatever it is, or just betting less in order to do things properly, that is the only way that you're going to make sure your results are built to last. So you have to take your medicine early in this game. And I think, like I've said a couple of times now, you're in a unique situation where you are a profitable trader. You could sack off this job and build. You've got the skill to build correctly, and it's going to take you years. Or you can leapfrog all that and put away a substantial amount of your income and put that into your Betfair after a year or two at your job. So you're in a privileged situation that most people aren't. But that is such a good point about building. You have to do it properly, you have to do it slowly, and you have to do it correctly, because you can have 10, 20, 30K months. But if you've done that by taking on excessive risk, you will eventually give it all back. So that is something that I can't say enough, and I'll continue to say on future episodes. But before that, just going back a little bit, backtracking, you spoke about relationships and how supportive your partner is, and I can't emphasize enough as well, and I don't think I've spoken about this enough, at all, actually, about how lucky I've been when it comes to my parents and when it comes to my now wife, because my dad, he's pretty hard nosed, and he was very pissed off that I decided to do this full time. As far as he's concerned, it's not a profession, and it doesn't look like I'm working hard. But my mother, bless her, it's a mother's thing where they're blinded by love and emotion, and they think you can do anything. She absolutely supported me, and she said to me, just go for it. Whereas my dad, in truth, he was right. He knew I was lazy. And I did pay for those mistakes early on. But my mom, she was absolutely supportive. And my dad eventually, he was on board. He's like, go for it as long as you make it work. And I've had that same luck with my partner as well, where she knows I work hard. She knows what it is I'm trying to do, and she sees the drive, she sees the passion, and she sees that I really want to make a go of things, and she works around my schedule to help me. And I do take the piss a bit, because if things need getting done, I can just say I'm trading that time. So around the clock, I have an excuse. But that aside, honestly, it is so important to have people around you that understand. If you've got a missus who hates what you do or doesn't agree with what you do, or who's going to be all up in your face when you're working from home and you don't have that environment, you don't have a conducive environment, and then you have to go and rent an office, and that's another expense. You're going to be further in the hole. It's only going to make your life so much easier. So people only see what you put out there. They don't see what's going on in the background. And a lot of the time, the people around you form the backbone for your success. So, of course, not everyone is lucky in that sense that I've been or you've been. But at the end of the day, as a man, you have to cultivate your own environment. And if that means cutting people off or moving away or doing what you have to do to make things a success, then you have to do it, because at the end of the day, like you said, you don't want to have any excuse. You don't want to look back on life and say, I didn't give it a shot. So you do only get one shot. You can get money back, but you don't get time back. And if you don't set yourself up to at least give this a go, you're always going to live life not knowing. But before we wrap this up, just quickly, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I just wanted to ask you, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years or 10 years? Do you still see yourself trading full time and forever, or is there an end game?
Oh, mate, I I have done so many 5-year, 10-year goals in my life to this stage.
And it changes as well. It
But
always changes, by the way. So I'll probably ask you the same
oh
question in a year, and I might get a different answer. But that's okay. That's what life is about. It's about maturing and sort of learning on the job, and things do change.
yeah, absolutely. So to answer your question, in 5 years' time, I mean, right now the dream is for trading to be my primary source of income in 5 years. Um, and I've sort of mapped out what a hypothetical dream life for me would look like. And when I have done that exercise previously, it's come down to two things. One, I still actually enjoy engineering. I still enjoy seeing something, a physical difference. Seeing water infrastructure or a road being built or a bridge being built or having some stormwater or a dam being built. So in saying that, I know I might be in fairyland here, but if we're gonna shoot for the stars, like this is my sort of big, big goal, and what I hope, what a perfect life to me looks like would be to earn my primary source of income via trading, and in my own time, just do some engineering work in developing parts of the world. And or work for some not-for-profits, or working developing areas, and take, you know, not it's not about money at all. It's using engineering or the skills that I've been fortunate to learn to do a bit of good. And it might not be working the full year, but it might look something like I trade for 9 months of the year or 7 months of the year, when the northern hemisphere have their summer and the southern hemisphere have their summer, and the remaining time I'm somewhere in the developing world, getting to learn some new cultures, some new cuisines, and building some infrastructure that hopefully helps some people. So that to me right now is the 5-year goal. By the time I turn 35, and it means that it's not the goal to have done it by 35. It's the goal to have everything established in a way that from 35 I can be doing that. But as I said, all good things take 3 times as long as you think. So instead of 35, it might be 45 or so where that happens. But still worth it to me. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going until I make it happen. That's the plan.
That's pretty amazing. That's really amazing that you want to use your trade you want to leverage what your skills in order to do better, to make the world better, which is amazing. For me, I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to give back in that regard, but for me, essentially, I want to be in a position where I mean, everyone thinks money is the goal, trading is to make money, which it is, but money isn't the goal. The goal is to buy back your freedom, which money does. So you take care of the money, you take care of your freedom, where you can pursue your creative passions. And I'm passionate about golf and even this podcast as well. I do want to grow it. I do want to get more guests on it. I'm a curious person. I like asking questions, and I think that having good conversations with important people is I definitely think it will be of value to everyone. But I agree with you on that. I don't want to go hammer and tong and trade the way we're going right now, flat out, by the time I'm in my late 30s or in my 40s. And I know there's guys on Twitter who are still trading full-time, middle-aged, making a few £100 on a Saturday. But that's not life for me. It's nothing to brag about not having taken a weekend off for 20 years. And that's not a dig at anyone, because everyone's goals are different. You brought up Hormozy earlier, and that guy lives like an absolute machine. And I know he's worth multiple 9 figures, but that's not for everyone. But at the end of the day, he's doing it on his terms, and he absolutely loves it. And I don't have that same love for trading as I did when I first started. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing I'd rather do, but the novelty wears off, just like it does with anything. And it's almost like a job. It's a job that I wouldn't trade for anything. There's nothing else I'd rather do. But as a means to an end, it's just to make me financially free. If I can scale this I've already scaled it, but I can still scale it to a level where, like you said, we can really cherry pick the series or the franchises that we get involved in, and then for the rest of the year, talk to interesting people or play golf more competitively or do what I want. I haven't figured that out yet, but I do think I'm on the right track. I think you're on the right track as well, and I think that we're going to be in good stead in the next 5 to 10 years. I think we've paid our dues. We've both messed up, and we've come out on the right side. So hopefully people can look back on this, or we can look back on this episode, and we can say, you know what, we did what we set out to do, and we fulfilled our goals. But in the meantime, we've got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely, and I mean, the work starts now, so yeah, I'm intrigued to see how this goes. And just before we wrap this up, I mentioned that I am on a bit of a journey back towards full-time trading, and I thought that I would document it a little bit better this time. I actually made that decision probably an hour or two ago, and I've bought the domain name atradersjourney.com. So if anyone, I don't know, there's nothing on there just yet. I've just bought the domain, but I figured that even if someone finds it interesting, that's a good thing. But even if not, hopefully one day my kids can read back on it and be like, shit, Dad was waking up at 2 a.m. chasing his dreams, and it might inspire them into grabbing life by the horns and going after something. So I think I'm just going to document the next year or two of my life, and hopefully coming back to full-time trading and what that looks like. So
that's
anyone
amazing.
can.
What's it called? Atradersjourney.com.
Atradersjourney.com, and obviously on there I'll have links to the Substack for cricket, and I'll have a little, maybe we can set up a discount code or something, can't we?
Of course, yeah, you can, absolutely, and I'll plug it in the description and on Twitter as well. That's amazing. Yeah, my only advice is just stick with it, just keep building it. And we live in a day and age, and this goes for any trader, winning or losing, we live in a creator economy on the internet where you can just share your journey, just post stories, post what you're up to, how you're feeling, what you're doing, what you're trying to figure out. And if you do that for long enough, and if you make progress, people are gonna take notice, and they are gonna follow you. And I think that everyone's building a brand. If you're writing online, if you're tweeting online, if you're writing a comment on someone, you're telling people who you are. You're saying things about yourself. So I think that creating a brand, you don't need to be full time on it. You can still go to work and you can still build a brand online. So just by writing or making videos or even a podcast like this, it's a positive sum game. Everyone wins. It's value for everyone. We all get to see where we're at. We all get to help each other. So I'll definitely be following you, and of course you'll be a regular here and in my Discord. So yeah, we can create together.
Absolutely, and I think you make your own luck, and you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So I think everyone should do a little bit of something, and I wouldn't have found you, or you wouldn't have found me if we weren't on Twitter. I've lucked out there, and to be honest, the last year of trading has been a lot more enjoyable having friends on Twitter and on Discord that weren't there the first 2 years when I was trying to do it on my own. So I better wrap it up there because we are going massively, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot more fun when you're doing it with a community, I think.
It is absolutely, and the internet makes the world a small place. So yeah, if it wasn't for that, I'm really grateful to have met you and other traders as well. But we'll wrap it up there. This was a really great episode, and hopefully we've given people some food for thought with regards to what it takes, and just playing the hand you're dealt with. Like I said, my unfair advantage was time. I had time on my side. For some people, they have the personality or the temperament, or in your case, Pez, you've put in the work as well. You put time aside, and you have a good profession which you can leverage monetarily in order to leapfrog your bankroll potentially forward. But I have no doubt that whatever decision you'll make, you're going to hit your goals. And of course, we'll be looking back in the future and hopefully hitting our goals, hopefully doing what we set out to do. But yeah, we'll wrap that up here. A Trader's Journey, did you say, was it atradersjourney.com?
Tradersjourney.com, that's the one. Yep.
I'll plug that in the description. So guys, give that a follow. And of course, I'll plug my Substack as well for those that are interested in reading my newsletter or even joining the Discord. But Pez, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for hopping back on the pod. We won't leave it that long this time. Hopefully, we'll have another chat next week. Otherwise, I'll speak to you in a couple hours anyway about the IPL.
Absolutely. Far too long between drinks for the pod, but I'll see you in a couple of hours for the IPL.
100%. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening, guys. Speak soon.